Thank you so much, Glenn, for spending the time with us today. So I'll introduce One Healing Space. So I founded One Healing Space last year in October 2019 because I hope to help students who, especially international students in overseas, like North America, Europe, and Australia, who have encountered mental health issues in their studying. So I founded One Healing Space because I want to raise mental health awareness. Second, I hope to provide this Chinese-speaking mental health support to overseas students. And today, I'm so lucky to be able to invite Glenn, the founder of 7 Cups, to join us today. Glenn, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, and I feel lucky and fortunate to be here with all of you too. So yes, I'm Glen Moriarty. I'm the founder of 7 Cups, psychologist. Met Cindy on a panel we were both on. What now? That was probably 2 months ago already. It's going pretty quick. But really happy to be with you all today and spend time chatting and learning more about all your work and how we can be helpful.
Thank you, Glenn. So I'll just start by our first question. Why do you start 7 Cups?
I started 7 Cups because I'm a psychologist, and when you're a counselor or a psychologist, the way you help people is you help them one-on-one. So you sit in an office kind of like this, and the person sits there and you chat with them. And the amount of demand, the amount of people that need help is huge, right? As you all know. And the amount of clinicians is small. Mm-hmm. So we have to figure out a way to help more people, help all of these folks, where clinicians play a part, but they're not the only part, because it's not really possible for us to grow this clinician pool to the size of the demand or the need. So what we have to do is figure out a way to train regular folks to care for other people, just regular people, meaning like everybody here, you, me, and work together with clinicians so that more people can feel understood and heard, and we can decrease some of the pain and some of the mental health challenges that we see.
Yeah, so I use the 7 Cups. So there are people who are like me, but they are trained to like support each other like emotionally. So I found that's a really good function. When I feel down but I don't want to talk to my friends, I can go to 7 Cups and talk to a stranger. So I'm not worried about that. This person will know my story and talk about me like afterwards. So I think that's very secure way. Yeah.
I think that's a great point you bring up. Yeah, anonymity, right? So not being identified as who you are. And when we are anonymous, we're allowed to say things that would otherwise kind of scare us or concern us because we might be found out. So I think that's a great point.
Thank you. And my next question is, why do you pick the name of 7 Cups of Tea initially?
So the name. So there's a couple of parts here. So we wanted to name it. We didn't want it to be concerning. So in a lot of the mental health space, it's scary, right? It's like you go see a professional, you sit in an office, you fill out a bunch of paperwork. Maybe you're going to get a diagnosis, and it feels very heavy and burdensome. And so we wanted to make it like you're having a cup of tea with a friend, and you're having 7 cups of tea. So it's not just, so we were originally 7 cups of tea. Now we're just 7 cups, but and the idea is that you have, several cups of tea with a friend over a period of time, and it's a relaxed conversation, and you don't have to worry about it. And so. And then there's also a really lovely Chinese poem called 7 Cups of Tea, where every cup of tea brings another level of healing. So the first cup of tea relaxes you, the second cup of tea takes your worries away, and it's all the way up to the number 7. And I've heard that 7 bowls of tea or 7 cups of tea sounds beautiful in Chinese. I don't actually know how to say it, but my friends have told me that.
Yeah. 七杯茶. That's how we pronounce it in Chinese. But
Nice.
I researched the name because I found the name was very attractive and beautiful. So I Googled it and I found out it's actually a Chinese poem, and that like just got me very into 7 cups even more. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's also the reason why I chose the name 2 cups of tea for our like the Chinese program, because like you said, the second cup of the tea takes your worries away. So I think that's exactly what I hope to build. I guess for 2 cups you cannot you cannot have the same effect as 7 cups, but I would like suggest people to use both. Yeah. So my next question is, as an entrepreneur, what difficulties have you encountered and how do you overcome it? Because I know you were a psychologist and now you are an entrepreneur. So I do see there's a big gap there.
Yeah. I think, so somebody said that being an entrepreneur is like somebody's punching you in the face repeatedly, and then another person is throwing cookies at you. Every once in a while, somebody throws a cookie at you, and you have to look for the cookies. And I think that's a good analogy. Like being an entrepreneur is really tough. There's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a really good book called The Messy Middle, where in general, you kind of go up and down like this in life or in business. And so when you're on the downs, you just endure the downs. You just know it's going to be okay. You're going to get through. It's going to be okay. And then when you're on the ups, try to optimize the ups. Try to do something to kind of amplify the ups. And then when you go down again, you're less down than you were, and then you figure it out. So that's one idea. The second idea that I think is pretty powerful is called it's an old Stoic idea, and it's called the obstacle is the way, or the problem is the path. So life, personal life, academic life, business life, family life, we always have problems coming at us. And the natural temptation is to want to avoid the problems because we don't like being in pain, which is a normal human process, right? It's very, makes all the sense in the world to not face pain directly. However, we don't grow when life is good. We grow when life is hard. And so if we can learn as entrepreneurs, as friends, as sons, daughters, parents, to steer into problems when we see them, and allow the problems to speak to us. Like, what are the problems saying? Listen to those problems, and then allow yourself to adapt to those problems. I think you've got a better shot at figuring things out than if you avoid the problems. And that's not an easy discipline. It's super hard. And there's one last little quip is this idea that pain plus reflection equals progress. So you don't get to make progress without pain and reflection. As unfortunate as that is, that's just kind of the ingredients of it.
Yeah, I actually totally agree. I have read a book called Lean Startup. So that book changed my mind. Before reading that book, I'm the person who's afraid of failure. When I fail, I feel like the world is crashing on me. What should I say to my parents? But after that book, I know like it's a progress. That's how you learn.
Yes, that's really good. And I like your point there. It feels like the world is crashing on us, but it's really not. Like it feels like this, but it's probably more like this.
Yeah.
You can survive. And
this actually reminds me of 2 recent news. There was one master's student in China committed suicide. There's also another like first year student at University of Waterloo in Canada committed suicide. they just felt that I guess they were just experiencing what I said. The world was crashing on them, so they chose that like action to do. But I guess we all need to learn that it's a progress. That's how we grow. We grow from pain, and I guess in the future, like one day when you look back, everything doesn't matter that much anymore.
It really doesn't. I think that's a great point. And I think one way, just for everybody on the call here, one way to think about suicide is fatal emotional pain. Fatal emotional pain. And so we've got some real challenges in front of us, really all around the globe. And so when you see somebody and they look like they're having a hard time, you know, I think it's good to just look out for them, to just say, hey, how's it going? How you doing? What's happening? Make small talk, because you never really know what somebody's going through. And so that little bit of kindness, that cup of tea, that 2 cups of tea, that just them knowing that there's somebody there that cares for them, that it can make a big difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. I started One Healing Space also because in university I had a friend. She was diagnosed with depression, but I had no idea at that time what depression is and how to help them. So I'm a strong advocate now that if you have friends that you think they need help, but you don't know how to help them, you can go and take some courses. I know 7 Cups had a very good training. You guys can go to 7cups.com and then do the listener training. So it's a good skill to have, like learn how to do active listening, do not judge others, and how to support others emotionally. I do think that's a very important life skill to have. And if I have learned that in university, I would know how to help my friend to like release her a little bit at least. Yeah. So my next question is, I know like 7 Cups is a free emotional support platform, but other than the free like trained volunteers part, there's also a licensed therapist. So like how 7 Cups is helping people in this way?
Yeah, so what we do, so 7 Cups is a free emotional support service, and the way it works, so there's really four key components. So the first part is talking with a trained volunteer listener, and I hope many of you sign up and become listeners. We have 440,000 trained volunteer listeners, 189 countries, 140 languages. And that's just a simple process that when you're going through a hard time, one of the first things you want to do is talk to somebody about it, and that just helps you feel better. So we do that all around the world, and we would welcome your help. The second part is what we call growth paths. So these are little small steps that you can take that are focused on specific issues. So if you're struggling with depression, there's exercises, cognitive behavioral therapy exercises that are designed to help you better cope with and overcome depression. And then there's different ones for anxiety and different ones for test anxiety and stress and financial stress and everything else. There's about 40 issues. The third part is community. So there's a One Healing Space community on 7 Cups, which is all Chinese speaking, which I'm delighted about and very happy to support. And then the last part is the licensed professionals. So 99.8% of what we do is at no cost, is free. And then 0.2% of people upgrade and then they talk to a licensed therapist, social worker, psychologist on the platform. And that's what helps us cover our bills so we can keep the service going.
Yeah. So I think the 101 psychotherapy is still at like a very early stage in the Chinese community. So I always need to explain to people like how 101 therapy or group therapy is helping people. Do you mind like telling us like what are the benefits of going to therapy?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. So so in order to become a therapist or a psychologist, what happens is a person goes through undergraduate training program, then they go to graduate school, and then they become a master's or a doctoral level clinician. And then they have to go through usually like a year or two worth of internship. And in that whole process, they learn part of what you learn is becoming a listener on 7 Cups, which is active listening. That's the core part of therapy, the most important part, actually. But then they learn on top of that specific protocols or techniques or exercises, which are similar to our growth paths, to help people overcome specific challenges. So sometimes therapy can be seen as just chatting with an individual about, with a clinician about whatever's on your mind. And that's part of it. But another part of it is getting specific help for the challenges you face. So for example, if you have panic attacks, there's specific exercises that can help you overcome panic attacks that are different than, say, if you have depression. And if you have depression, you might be severely depressed, you might be moderately depressed, or you might be mildly depressed. And there are different exercises that help somebody who's in the more severe range than somebody who's in the more mild to moderate range. So a clinician is usually somebody who's gone through advanced training, they have a license, meaning they've been approved by their state board, and are often competent to do that. And so, Ling, just to go back, the second part is the growth paths. So clinicians would refer to them as treatment plans. Those are the specific protocols or exercises designed to help you. So we call them growth paths, but a clinician would call them treatment plans.
Thank you. Yeah, I do know that there's a very long journey of becoming either a psychologist or a psychotherapist. So they are trained like super well to be able to help people, and there's a super high barrier to entry. There's also a high level of ethics in this industry. Yeah. So many of our audience today are either students or young professionals. So they are still at the early age of their life. What suggestions would you give to them and me?
So you're young, you're starting out, and so what is the specific recommendation? Like just broad general or anything in particular?
I guess many of us are experiencing stress. Many people are lost in their lives. They don't know like what my passions are, like what do I want to do in the future. I don't find meanings. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So from that perspective, I think it's like what I tell my kids, I have 4 kids, is you have to, I think there's 3 key areas to think about. And sometimes this is like done in like overlapping circles. So you have like one circle here, one circle here, one circle here, and then there's the place in the middle where they all overlap. So I think it's one helpful thing to think is, what am I good at? So if you're good at it, you're going to naturally like it. So what am I good at? What do I like doing? And then what can I make money doing? So for example, I might like playing the guitar and singing. I might even be good at it. Neither of those things are true. I'm not good at it and I don't like it, but let's just assume they are. I'm good at it. I like it. Is somebody going to pay me money to do it? Nobody's going to pay me any money to do it. So that's like not a good career option for me. On the other hand, let's say finance. Let's say going into finance. I might be good at finance. I might be able to get paid to do it, but I might not like it. So that's going to be a bad job for me. Like I can do it, but it's going to be a grind. Now, if I could do something like, so for my own personal life, I like figuring out I like helping people. That's like the thing I like to do. I like to think I'm good at it and I can get paid doing it. So that's like a good career path for me. So I would just encourage folks to think about trying to line up those 3 components. The other thing I would suggest is there's an exercise you can do. This is from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a very old book. but it's a classic. And they have you imagine yourself at the end of your life. So some of you might imagine passing away at 80, 90, 100, 110, however old you imagine you'll be. And so imagine you're at your funeral. And if you think you'll be married at the time, imagine your partner saying 3 to 4 things about you. If you think you'll have children, imagine one of your children saying 3 or 4 things about you. Imagine a coworker saying 3 to 4 things about you. And then imagine like a friend saying 3 to 4 things about you. And so those 9 or 12 things end up being your compass for life. So if you're living your life in a manner that is consistent with what those people would say, you're beginning with the end in mind, then you're probably going to have a good life. That doesn't mean you're not going to have a bunch of pain. There's not going to be a bunch of problems. There will be, but you'll basically be on track. Now, if you don't live in that way, and you live like a very common way to live is whatever the next urgent thing to do. So you've got this next urgent thing, and then you do that thing, and then there's another thing, and people will constantly he'll give you more and more stuff to do, and they'll try to reorient you to make their life better. And so it can be important to differentiate between living in a way that's consistent with how you want to be remembered when you pass away versus whatever the next urgent thing is in your life. And so they differentiate that by saying one is living with a compass, so how to get direction, how to find your way, a map, and then one is living by a clock. And the clock, as far as we know, we got one shot at this life. So I would encourage you all have a compass inside your heart, and you have gifts and talents and strengths, things you're good at, things you like doing. So I would try to find those 3 circles and then do that exercise and then try to live in a way that fulfills that outcome.
Thank you. I think this is a very good exercise that many like young people like me should be doing, because nowadays, especially with COVID, I think people can stop, pause their life and think about what are really important to them. And I guess everyone should prioritize health. We might be like stressed about like making money, thinking about our social status, but right now probably family and health is really something that we should all care about. Yeah. Now I guess I have my last question, and then there are a couple questions in the audience, and I'll take them. So my last question is that we're currently developing a Chinese volunteer community. Many of the audience you might know, it's called 2 Cups of Tea. This is a program that we work with 7 Cups. We also have a community forum space on 7 Cups. So far, we have recruited 20 volunteers, and they have passed the training. So if we want to recruit more people, do you have any words to say to people who are interested but haven't taken action to apply? Benefits of becoming a volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a core part of life is navigating social relationships, like how to figure out how to build relationships with people, how to understand people. So I think that all of the becoming a volunteer active listener helps do all those things. Mm-hmm. It gives you strength and capacity as well. I think also giving to other people and caring for others, being compassionate, helps you too. Like it increases your own capacity. And oftentimes, there's that old saying, like giving is better than receiving. And it's actually true. Like if you, we're coming up around the holidays now, which is a big time to think about consumption and getting. But, to your point earlier, you know, some of the things that maybe we accomplish that we think are going to be a big deal, or maybe we buy something, or maybe somebody gives us something, those things can fade. They can become kind of less important. But what's really kind of, I think things that are meaningful are really when you can care for somebody else, somebody with less financial resources, somebody with less capabilities. I think that is that's a gift.
Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. So I have a question from the audience that can Glen and Cindy give us a clear best practice of meditation? I don't know, like if you want to take this question.
Sure. I think meditation can be, sometimes meditation, you can get lost in like the intricacies of it. Like what kind of meditation is it? Are you doing it right? Is there a particular practice to it? And I think sometimes that it can end up making it more complicated than it needs to be. So we have a bunch of mindfulness scripts on 7 Cups that are free. There's a couple hundred of them, maybe 100 of them. And you just press a button and then you listen. And it takes you into a meditation. Similarly, you can do a very easy process for meditating is just deep breathing. So you can put your hand on your belly, because when we're anxious, we tend to breathe up here, short breaths from our chest. But when you're relaxed, you can fill your stomach up with air. So just imagine, like an easy way to do it is just to imagine breathing in for 5 seconds. Hold it for 5 seconds, and then slowly let it out for 5 seconds. And so if you do that 3 or 4 times a day, or at different intervals in the day, it'll help you feel really relaxed. And the thing about your body is it can't be anxious and relaxed at the same time. So it's impossible. So if your mind is racing and you're worried about everything, you can take a run, you can do these deep breathing exercises, you can listen to music, you can take a hot shower. These are all things that will relax you. And if you're relaxed, it's hard to be anxious.
Yes. I really like the suggestion about like taking a shower or listening to music, because that's how I found it's super effective to relax. Sometimes we just have a long day, and when you take a shower, after the shower, like magically you just found yourself are so relaxed, like everything just goes away. So yeah,
you've just used hot water to relax your brain. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm also promoting self-care. Like this is actually a new word. I've never known this word before I start One Healing Space. But now I tell everyone you should do self-care, whatever it takes. Like you can eat, you can take a walk, you can travel, but take whatever you need and care about yourself. Thank you so much, Glen. So those are all the questions today. I think, yeah. What else? Do you have an effective? Okay, so we don't have much time for this question, but we will try to answer it. Lots of my classmates hate their parents and don't want to talk to them. Do you have an effective way or pattern to deal with this problem? This is actually a very big question.
Okay, so I don't know, culturally there's a lot to think through that I'm not 100% aware of. So I don't want to say anything that's that could be off, but in general, there's I feel statements. So if you look up I feel statements, so it's like, I feel procrastination. Like, so instead of blaming the other person, it's mostly you're just saying like, I feel hurt when I hear this from you. That's one idea. So I would search for I feel. Yep, you can reach out to me. So it's just glen.moriarty, Moriarty @7cups.com. And so just search I feel statements. I think that would be good. Another thing is, well, I'll just leave it at that. And then in terms of procrastination, that's a tough one. I think taking small, little, tiny things. So like if your brain wants to procrastinate, just say, okay, I'm gonna do whatever I do for 15, 20 minutes. And then don't try to say, I'm gonna tackle this giant problem or write up this whole essay or write this whole paper. I'm just gonna do this little part of it. And then do that instead of like trying to take on too much. Good questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. We only have 2 minutes left. I guess I can take all the questions and I can email it to you afterwards. And if you have an answer, you can email back to me, and because I do know these people who are asking questions. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Glen, for spending the time with us today. It's a really pleasure and fortune to invite you to be with us. If any of the audience today, even if you're not coming in at the Zoom and you're watching this video, if you're interested in becoming a 7 Cups volunteer, go to 7cups.com. And if you want to participate in our like the Chinese community, it's called 2 Cups of Tea. You can tell our WeChat account, and we will we have a interview, and you need to do the training first. So thank you so much, and hope everyone have a good start of the week. Bye. Bye.